Hello, my friends. Riley Knight joining you with Eduardo Sajgalic as well as we continue our exploration of this modern format here live from Mythic Championship Barcelona. We're going to head down to the feature match area and watch some elimination magic take place. Eduardo, a lot of the players this round are at 9-3. This is their last chance. Basically, one more loss and they are 100% out of top 8 contention.
Right, this is the spot where, I mean, 9-3 is already a stellar performance. I mean, you won 75% of your matches at the highest level. These tournaments can be really brutal, but you gotta win at least 3 more to try to get to that critical 12 wins.
Jacob Wilson on the left-hand side of your screen, playing off against Dmitriy Butakov there. Now, Jund is a deck that we have seen around the traps throughout the weekend here in the hands of Butakov, the 2-time Magic Online champion. Jacob Wilson, however, is playing a bird of a different feather. We have Mardu, Death Shadow. Mardu Pyromancers is a deck at the moment, but Mardu Death Shadow is not something I've seen a lot of. Some very important Modern Horizons technology in Wilson's list here.
Yeah, essentially the Mardu Shadow deck has come about because of Knight Ranger of Eos. That's been the big card, essentially allowing you to get a Death Shadow. You can then sacrifice it to gain yourself the time to attack with it. By the way, here we see a Thoughtseize, and there's a lot of options. The Lightning Bolt, while it can trade 1-for-1 for the Ranger of Eos, totally fine. If Jacob Wilson's hands is empty, you could take the Tarmogoyf. But I think Seasoned Pyromancer is the highest upside card. However, if you take the removal spell, you're just banking on a very slow development.
Yeah, and look, Jund can play games like that very well, but so can the Mardu colors. They can grind very hard indeed. And with Lightning Bolt, the choice there for Thoughtseize, we're going to see exactly what Wilson wants to bring to bear now that that bolt has gone away. And look, this explains it. Double Tide Hollow Scullo, Ranger Captain of Eos, a very creature-heavy hand here for the young Canadian.
But especially a heavy disruption hand. The Tide Hollow Scullo is gaining value because there's a lack of removal on the other side. So here, Jacob Wilson can do the 1-2 punch, you know, Thoughtseize away the Lightning Bolt, and then get Tide Hollow Scullo down and take a Seasoned Pyromancer before it can cycle into more threatening cards.
Exactly right, and this is what you want to do with cards like Tide Hollow Scullo. Pretty unassuming on the face of them, but when they're combined with other discard effects, when you can just, I mean, it's just a 2-2 for 2, right? But when it strips away the hand so effectively with other teammates like Thoughtseize, all of a sudden your opponent just is left without a leg to stand on. Yeah,
and it was a card added to the deck, I believe, because it plays Unearth, and it is just both disruption. It's that package that the Death Shadow deck's kind of one of disruption and aggression.
Disruption and pressure, man. Yep, the 1-2 punch. Been winning games of Magic for 25 years, disruption and pressure.
And you know, before it wasn't possible to play it because, you know, the card was white. That's not really possible in more traditional colors. So the 4-color decks, the one color they normally forgot was white.
Yeah.
And then there's Grixis Shadow. But again, with the Ranger of Eos, Knight Ranger of Eos being printed, that allows this version with Tide Hollow Scholar finally be able as kind of a midway
That's right.
gameplay.
It's one of those cards that you may as well play, seeing as we're in white here. And here is that Tide Hollow Scholar. Let's have a look at what Butakov has picked up in the recent turns. Just a couple of lands there, and Tarmogoyf, the pickup now from the Tide Hollow Scholar.
Actually kind of curious on that one.
Yeah. Wilson snapped it off, though, so he obviously knows what he's doing. He's a man with a plan.
I believe it was snapped off because there's no removal, so Tarmogoyf can be a bigger problem in the early game. The deck does run Fatal Push and Path to Exile.
You've seen what Butakov has just drawn. He's found a Kolaghan's Command.
Well, that's...
So that, unfortunately for Wilson, has a very high upside against Tide Hollow Scholar because it is an artifact as well.
Yeah, the main thing is Destroy Target Artifact is nice, but it's very similar to 2 damage unless you can also get something else with it.
No, but what if Wilson then goes for another Tide Hollow Scholar? In response, Butakov can kill both of them, lose nothing.
Well, the problem is you can't really do it in response to, say, the ability, because, again, there's 2 triggers to Tide Hollow Scholar.
Still is a card. Yeah, it's not like Banishing Light, it's like Oblivion Ring, so that'll be a disaster. I knew that. I'm glad you did too. Just wanted to point out for the viewers at home, of course, don't miss a trick, me.
By the way, that discard was key. That was a mode I wasn't really expecting here because it allows Unearth to get Ranger sorry.
Yeah.
There's so many words on certain cards.
Ranger Captain of Eos now can be brought back with Unearth, go and get a Death Shadow, and all of a sudden, Wilson is going to pile power onto the board here. And at 8 life, that Death Shadow is going to be big enough to rumble with the Tarmogoyf, I think. What do we got? Instant, creature, land, artifact. It's a 4/5. Oh, sorcery as well, 5/6. So not quite big enough. But I'm sure Wilson will find a way to do himself a point or two of damage here. Thoughtseiz's in hand. This could be a big turn for Wilson here.
Yeah, I mean, Unearth plus Death Shadow, or you can go Thoughtseiz's with... And plus, the best part is Jacob Wilson knows the top card thanks to Mishra's Bauble, so he's operating on full information.
Excellent
since that Kolaghan's command was just drawn.
Yeah, for sure. Wilson has a great... He's definitely winning the information battle here. He's got a lot more information to make high-level decisions, which is what will separate the wheat from the chaff at events like this. Ranger Captain of Eos fetches up a Death Shadow, which can be immediately deployed should Wilson choose to.
Yeah, and here, look at the amount of power deployed for 2 mana. Wait a sec. Well, I mean, it's 8 power. It's similar to another 2-drop.
Yeah. I mean, 2 mana for 8 power is something that I mean, when you talk to me about 0 mana for 8 power, then I start getting interested. But no, look, Death Shadow, Ranger Captain of Eos, all of a sudden, best buds. That's buds with a Z. And now Wilson is meaningfully contesting this board. That discard effect, the Raven's Crime effect from the Kolaghan's command, actually a bit of a liability there for the Russian.
Yeah, there are only 2 Unearths in the main deck, which, again, with open deck lists, Dmitriy would have been aware about. So that's kind of the thing is, well, okay, I can make my opponent discard. We are playing an attrition-based game. But yeah, ooh, okay.
Double Tarmogoyf here, triple Tarmogoyf even, mismatched unfortunately, but hey, they still attack and block all the same.
Temur Battle Rage, an extremely good pickup here, though.
Ooh, hello, look at this. All right, that changes the game a little bit. Now, Wilson, of course, not in a position to pull the trigger just yet. Still a couple of turns to set up here for him. He knows the final card in Butakov's hand. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, but let's see. The Death Shadow can at least be 10 power here. Sorry, my math is wrong. No, it isn't. Fetch land.
You played yourself.
It's fair enough. Fetch land, shock land, Thoughtseize, puts Jacob Wilson to 3.
To 3.
If you attack, Tarmogoyf should be a 5/6 base.
5/6, yep.
Yeah. So a single block is enough because Dmitriy is at 16. And at that point, that becomes not so much an enticing option. If 2 Tarmogoyfs were necessary, it would be. Because at that point, okay, Dmitriy blocks with 2 Tarmogoyfs. Ah, it's okay, I killed 2 Tarmogoyfs.
You're making a great trade, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But with 1, if Dmitriy blocks with 1 and Jacob decides to go to 3, there's a counter swing.
Yeah, exactly. And things don't work out well for the Canadian in that situation. So let's see what's next on the docket here. Wilson deploys a Nihil Spellbomb. Now that changed the Tarmogoyf mathematics.
If Jacob Wilson targets his own graveyard, the Tarmogoyfs are 2 freeze.
Wait,
the Tarmogoyfs are 2 freeze. So then the Death Shadow becomes... Okay, so the Shockland can put the Death Shadow... Can put Jacob from 8 to 5. So that would make the Death Shadow an 8/8. So that's exactly 16.
Right. So
and if it's 1 Tarmogoyf blocking, you just kill it. As you allow combat to happen. You don't deploy the Temur Battle Rage.
You don't need to deploy the Temur Battle Rage.
Right, and if 2 do, then... And this is the problem. Dmitriy understands that this Nihil Spellbomb will make these Tarmogoyfs 2 freeze.
Wow, so critical as well. You don't have Nihil Spellbomb in the main deck to fight off Tarmogoyfs in Jund, but Wilson will be thanking his lucky stars that he's included and found that card in this matchup because it's doing a lot of work.
And this is lethal damage. Exactly lethal.
Just like that.
That was beautiful.
Butakov had figured it out. That's the other incredible thing. Butakov knew exactly. Did you see how fast he picked up his cards? He knew. He was like, if Jacob Wilson has this, this, and this, I am deader than disco. And as it turns out, the Russian superstar goes down to game number 1.
That was just... I know you wanted the last match, the Jund-Tron match, to be the match of the day, but that game right there, that was incredible play from Jacob Wilson, honestly.
Amazing how he stitched that one together. Really, really talented young mind in the game of Magic, and I'm not surprised to see him.
That was a masterclass,
I mean,
honestly.
You know the Galaxy Brain thing? He's like below the bottom of the image.
Oh, there's more images?
Yeah, there's more images we need for Jacob Wilson. Anyway, my friends, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, of course, from Barcelona before very much longer. So stick with us. We'll be back after this.
Hey everybody, I've got Mike Sigrist here, and you love draft, you're great at draft. I'm going to give you this Modern Horizons pack to open here for us, and we're going to do pack one, pick one. How do you like this format?
I love this format.
And you've played so much on Arena. You've hit #1 on Mythic 2 months, 2 times in 2 separate seasons.
2 times in a row I've finished #1 Mythic Limited.
No big deal. No big deal. Okay, so let's lay these cards out on the table here and take a look at what we're going to take out of this pack. Ooh, there's some good ones. There's a Mother Bear in here.
Yeah, Mother Bear is the best common right now, and Enduring Sliver. Overall, I think this is a pretty weak pack. The card I would be looking to take is Cordial Vampire.
Why do you want to take that now?
Okay, so Cordial Vampire, there's not that many vampires in the set, but there's a lot of changelings, so you can get real big with Cordial Vampire, and especially with like Changeling Outcast, you can, some of your whenever any creature dies, it pumps. So you can use your removal spells to pump your Changeling Outcast, and you get a really big board real quickly.
So I want to ask you, let's pretend Cordial Vampire is not in this pack, and it's even weaker.
Yeah.
Which direction are you pushed to go?
So the cards I would be looking at if Cordial Vampire was not in the pack would be Mother Bear, and to a much lesser extent, Ruination Rider. Ruination Rider is kind of just an okay gold card. It's not really a strong incentive to be in red-green. And Mother Bear is much more flexible, so I would just take Mother Bear.
So I've been hearing a lot about blue-black ninjas being the #1 archetype. Do you share that opinion?
Yeah, I do think that blue-black is the strongest archetype, but draft is self-correcting, so if too many people are drafting it, I'm perfectly comfortable avoiding it and drafting white or red or green.
Do you have any tips for Modern Horizons draft specifically? Maybe somebody out there has never tried it before that you're like, think about this going into your first pack.
So I would try to remain as open as possible. The power level of the cards is really flat. There's no super strong bombs. There's a couple, but it's not really a bomb-oriented format. So you get really rewarded for staying open and being in the open color.
All right, well, it's time to drink some blood. Cordial Vampire is our pick here with Siggy.
Welcome back to the booth here at Mythic Championship for Barcelona. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Eduardo Sage Gallic, of course, and down in the feature match area, action is continuing as we get underway with round number 13 of this tournament. The format, of course, modern. We've put Limited to bed. 3 exciting rounds of Limited for you to enjoy in the video replays. But right now, we're going to head over to one of our back tables. We have Guillaume Wafo-Tapa against Emil Castro Christensen here. Now, these players, Eduardo, at 9-3, this record means that they're on their last legs.
Yeah, essentially, a loss would knock them out of top 8 contention. Obviously, still compete, prizes, all the good stuff.
But still a stack of cash to win, of course. But if we're talking about the cold, hard business of the cut to top 8, one more loss.
Is it?
And these fellas are out. So Emil Castro, it's easy for me to say, excuse me there, Emil. Emil Castro Christensen facing off against the French Hall of Famer Guillaume Wafo-Tapa, surprising nobody with his deck choice, playing Esper Control. And one of the cards that Wafo-Tapa will certainly have enjoyed having in his main deck this time around is the one you see in his hand there at the top, Kaya's Guile. Esper Charm, another draw for the Black Splash. But Kaya's Guile, a very, very flexible and useful card in the current modern metagame.
Yeah, essentially it's graveyard hate without having to be graveyard hate. It was a card that was experimented with at Modern Horizons release, but a lot of players prefer playing straight up blue-white, so that's why you don't see it in his deck. I think here we can, I think we're going to see this take a turn for the worse depending on what happens. Emil just drew a Karn the Great Creator. I think it's actually a pretty tough line here, whether to play the Karn the Great Creator and get a Mikos and Flatus, because that combination is good enough to end the game if it resolves.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a fair bit of time here to catch up with what Wafo-Tapa is up to. He does like to play his slower deck, so we should be able to check back in with him a little bit later. So let's head back now to Jacob Wilson and Dmitriy Butakov there. We got the chance to see game number 1, which was won in masterful style by Jacob Wilson, who stitched together an incredible board state to snatch victory from the jaws defeat there. But now, Butakov, well, he's ready to avenge the game 1 loss. Kicking things off here with what looks like, is this basic mountain? Are we going to see a 1-drop of some kind? Maybe I'm completely lost. What is it going to be? For 1 red? Nihil Spellbomb.
That's the beauty of artifacts.
It's not often that you see Jund fetch basic mountain on turn 1 on the play.
That's true. Basic Mountain has not actually been common in Jund for a while, but the addition of Seasoned Pyromancer definitely warrants its inclusion.
Yes, for sure. So Nihil Spellbomb here, the play for Butakov. both of these players using cards like Nail Spellbomb as main deck answers to the graveyard, dominated by state of the form. And there it is. You couldn't have drawn up any better. A Nail Spellbomb as well for Jacob Wilson here. And neither of these decks are like all-in graveyard decks either. Neither of these decks are just like, oh, I can't live without my graveyard. But Tarmogoyf is a reason here that Wilson will be glad to have that Nail Spellbomb. The Canadian will be able to mess with Butakov's graveyard and keep that Tarmogoyf nice and small.
Yeah, plus has a bunch of removal spells which deal with it easily. Dmitriy that turn drew Inquisition, which would have been a preferable turn 1 play to Nihil Spellbomb, but you do with what you have. I think, yeah, here you just open up with Tidehollow Scholar, look at Dimitri's hand, and try to plan out the turns.
Very interactive hand as well for Wilson. We see Tidehollow Scholar has just been deployed, but now the hand of Dmitriy Butakov is the one under the microscope, and we can see here Seasoned Pyromancer, Tarmogoyf, Bloodstained Maya, and an Inquisition of Kozilek.
This is actually a difficult pick.
What are you looking at here?
The thing with Tidehollow Scholar is the card remains under it, so eventually your opponent could deploy it with a removal spell. Decides to take the Seasoned Pyromancer, probably just not wanting it to come down on turn free.
Yes, I mean, it can be a great value play. Fix up those hands a little bit. But Butakov may now just want to play Tarmogoyf Inquisition. That Tarmogoyf is a big bad thumper at the moment. Well, actually, no, it's a small, meek thumper, but it will get big very quickly.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that Jacob just has a very clean answer, right? With access, and we'll show the hand as to why, but with access to 2 Path to Exile and a Fatal Push, an Inquisition of Kozilek normally clears the way for Tarmogoyf and, you know, bread and butter, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, they go together like peanut butter and what Americans call jelly, which is not a very nice thing to put on your toast, I imagine. I mean, jam's fine, but come on. Get it straight out of the fridge and smearing it all over it? No.
But here comes the bad news. There's a lot of removal.
Yeah, this is the thing now. As I highlighted before, Wilson with an incredibly interactive hand here, and you kind of can't really take anything out of it that's going to be devastating for Wilson here. You know, I guess the unique effects in this hand are Team of Battle Rage and Unearth. But Butakov, with the heavy creature sort of draw that he's had, is going to go after the Fatal Push there.
Yeah, and it's because Fatal Push cleanly answers Tarmogoyf. The nice part is it doesn't allow Jacob to really do too much on the turn. You can Path, but at least Dmitriy that way is drawing into more mana. Path to Exile on Tarmogoyf is going to allow Dmitriy to deploy later game threats, hoping to doggo something like a Bloodbraid Elf.
That's right, and whenever you give Jund extra resources, even if it's something as innocuous as a basic land, you're still kind of playing into their hands. Anything that's a 2-for-1 in their favor is, I mean, the magnitude of just how useful a 2-for-1 is for Jund, it's amplified in Jund because they're all about that 1-for-1 game. 2-for-1s is exactly what they want.
Yeah, exactly. Even at free lands, Dmitriy could draw something like, again, I mentioned Bloodbraid Elf, but even another Seasoned Pyromancer would be really powerful since Dmitri's hand is pretty low. And, well, Engineered Explosives drawn here from Dmitriy, probably not going to be set at 2 since not really a big fan, I guess, of killing your own Goyfs. But probably at 1, something, you know, deal with a future Death Shadow.
So Butakov does have Engineered Explosives ready to go. Unearth, Path to Exile, Team of Battle Rage in the hand of Jacob Wilson. And we're going to see just double Path on the double Tarmogoyf. Just plops them on the table, easy as you like. And that means Butakov is going to get 2 basic lands. Now, with cards like Seasoned Pyromancer, with cards like Bloodbraid Elf, with cards that can provide extra value but require, you know, an intensive mana commitment, getting those 2 extra basics can be huge. It can be huge.
Yeah, it's especially important here. If you wanted to see the importance, Jacob did not attack. One of Jacob's lines was to Path to Exile Tarmogoyf and attack last turn, but declined to do it just to make sure that if Dmitriy drew a Bloodbraid Elf, at least Jacob has the chance to draw a Thoughtseize off this Nihil Spellbomb.
Right. So Butakov now, after having lost those 2 Tarmogoyfs here, both these players, I'll remind you, do have Nihil Spellbombs in play, but there's the EE.
And that's the thing. It wasn't the best card originally because of those Tarmogoyfs, but now with Tidehollow Scholar, allowing Seasoned Pyromancer to potentially go back into Dmitri's hand.
So Nihil Spellbomb removes the graveyard of Dmitriy Butakov, and Wilson finds another rather unexciting land in hand for him. Unearth with no targets, and a couple of lands, including the new white-black canopy land, a very important addition to enemy-colored oriented decks.
Yeah, this is actually, this is a rough spot for Jacob Wilson here, because there's no real easy way to interact with that engineering explosives. So Dmitriy is going to take the damage, end of turn, activate the engineering explosive, and get a boatload of value.
That's very true. I mean, Wilson can bring it back with an Unearth, but that's not really what you want to be doing with Unearth. You want to be bringing back Ranger Captains. You want to be bringing back cards like Death Shadow here.
Yeah, and I think Dmitriy is favored here with the ability to draw 2 cards off that Pyromancer.
Yeah. Especially if he's hellbent. I mean, that's what happens with the Seasoned Pyromancer. You just end up drawing 2 cards in the late game. This card is such a house, kind of been overshadowed a little bit by Ren and 6 as the mainstay marquee Jund card of Modern Horizons here.
Yeah,
Wilson.
You even have the land for full value.
Full value here, absolute no brains, no brakes on the value train, and a no-brainer play here as well, putting that Seasoned Pyromancer into play and drawing 2 fresh ones off the top. And this is what Jund does. It plays off the top of the deck, Eduardo, like no other deck in Modern.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed that way.
It top decks like an absolute hero. So cycling away on Earth now, Jacob Wilson, perhaps a little bit of a desperate move there, finds a Ranger Captain of Eos. That's a great draw, puts himself back in it here, shocks himself to put to make any potential future Death Shadows a little larger. And there's the Ranger Captain. What are we going to see him search up? Could be anything. Could be anything.
Could even be a Shadow.
Could even be a Shadow. And it turns out, indeed, Death Shadow, the play here.
I missed an opportunity. I could have said it could have been an Avatar, which might have confused you for a second.
No, I'm not. Oh, don't even worry about that. I know all my creature types. I'm going to get you with one now. There's a card in hand. Jacob Wilson is holding a Street Wraith. What is the creature type of Street Wraith?
Is it Wraith?
Oh, he got it. He got it. So many people think horror, spirit. What is it? But no, Wraith.
What about Tide Hollow's color?
Can't get you. It's a horror. It's a zombie horror.
Is it?
I think it's definitely a zombie. I don't know if it's a horror.
It is an artifact, which is always makes that interesting.
Artifact creature zombie horror. I'm going to lock that in. I might be wrong. I'm confident on zombie. Anyway.
Anyways,
Seasoned Pyromancer here. High-level Magic discussion going on at Mythic Championship Barcelona. Do hope you're enjoying this marquee coverage of the event here.
it is a beautiful mid-range matchup. We're just waiting for. Oh wow!
Ooh, waiting for a haymaker like Kalitas, the traitor of Get, coming off the top here. That's going to change the game.
It is an artifact creature zombie in chat. But anyways, Kalitas is going to indeed change the game.
Yes, indeed. Kalitas here is another form of main deck graveyard hate, but going to be very useful in not only buffering Dmitriy Butakov's life total, but also putting an enormous amount of pressure on Jacob Wilson here. Liliana of the Veil as well. And this is what we talked about. We talked about the fact that giving Jund extra lands comes at a real cost. And now we are seeing that cost be paid by Jacob Wilson. 2 massive spells cast in the 1 turn there for Butakov. A 1-2 punch, leaving Wilson with a lonely Death Shadow.
Yeah, but thankfully, with that Street Wraith and Temur Battle Rage, there is a plan. There's always a plan.
There's always a plan.
But look at the life total for Dmitriy.
He's on 10. The lifelink on Kalitas is going to be critical here. Another Death Shadow here for Wilson, who's on 7. That Death Shadow now a 6-6.
Yep.
Could even become a 9-9.
This is... Okay, wait a second. This is 18? Is this just lethal?
So Butakov can line up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of toughness here.
8 it looks like, but it still doesn't... If it's 18 minus 8, it's 10. I think Jacob's got this.
So Jacob Wilson, is he going to pull another incredible victory out of absolute thin air here? You know, he lines up, yeah, just like that, whatever, I don't care. Just line up the blockers, yep, in any order, doesn't matter, because you, my friend, are deader than a doornail. Look at this, puts himself to a lower life total. Temur Battle Rage, 8 of that damage gets soaked up by Butakov's blockers, and the rest tramples over just like that. Wilson with another stunning, thunderous victory on the back of that Death Shadow.
That was beautiful.
Poetry in motion. The Canadian cannot be contained. He continues his onslaught towards the top 8. And I did not expect to see such a flurry, such a swift end.
And if you ever wonder why Death Shadow in Modern has red, that's why.
That's why, yeah. That's why Esper Death Shadow didn't really stick around for a long period of time. Wilson giving us all a very sharp lesson in the power of TBR, Temur Battle Rage, getting it done. We move to one of our other back tables now with Eli Cassis there. Gentleman in the glasses on the right-hand side of your screen. It's Felix Inauer Inawa from Austria here, up against the American Cassis playing Urza Thopter Sword. A newer and more exciting deck here. But on the other side of things, in the hands of Felix Inawa, a very traditional, been around for, time immemorial. It's Hogak, Arisen Necropolis.
Actually.
Oh, actually, is it? No, it's Dredge. I just saw Hogak. And I was like, oh, I've got another one.
Hogak Classic.
It's Hogak Classic, yes. Yeah. We've had new Hogak, and this is Hogak Classic, exactly. Yes. No, this is Dredge, man. I was 100% wrong. I just saw Hogak on the deck, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we all know what's going on here. But no, Narcomoebas, Bloodghast, Creeping Chills. Inawa has included a new piece of Modern Horizons technology in a different old deck in Dredge.
Yeah,
and have a look at what this list looks like here, starting things off with Eli Cassis and Urza Thopter Sword, a new deck that's only been made possible, really, well, an update to an old deck that's been made possible by Modern Horizons.
Right, and you're seeing a version here. Again, it's a combo deck. In its essence, the idea of the infinite combo, Urza Lord's Artificer, Thopter Foundry, and sort of the Meek make infinite mana, infinite blue mana, infinite creatures, infinite life. You can kind of play everything in your deck, except maybe one or two cards you want at the end. It's not the only version. This is a specific version you're looking at, but because this deck is newer, people haven't figured out the right version. So if you're interested in this kind of archetype, I would highly recommend at some point checking out all the deck lists of the tournament, because they are open, they are known. So you can check this out, especially on Sunday with a full sideboards, and you know, pick and choose the version you'd like to play.
Yeah, we haven't reached a consensus as to what is the best version of this deck. But Dredge is a list that's been around for a long, long time. Kind of taken a back seat recently in the graveyard stakes to Hogak. But hey, look, we're playing the Arisen Necropolis all the same, says Felix Inawa, the Austrian. And this list has a very weird and confusing game plan that might be a little unfamiliar to new players of Magic.
Yeah, if you're coming from another format and not introduced to Eternal, Legacy, Vintage, and of course Modern, the Dredge mechanic is probably one of the more infamous ones, I think, in the history of the game. Essentially, replacing your draw by putting multiple cards in your graveyard. Originally designed because you wanted to recur things, but actually what happens is, if your cards are effectively active cards in your graveyard, it's like drawing multiple cards.
Yeah.
Obviously, those cards are maybe not the best 1/1 flyers or 2/1s that can't block, but if you add it all up, it starts being important.
We're not playing Stinkweed here because we want a weird 3-mana 1/2 Death Touch. We're playing it because we want a nice full graveyard, and that's the reason for cards like Faithless Looting, Cathartic Reunion, what have you. As you say, Bloodghast, prized amalgams, a recent addition in Creeping Chill as well.
Which helps the burn plan of the deck. Life from the Loam and Conflagrate is a really nice late game plan. You can get up to 8, 9, even in some scenarios 10 cards in your hand for Conflagrate, which is a ton of damage.
So usually chip in for a little bit here and there, prized amalgam, Bloodghast, and then eventually big Conflagrate for the win. Head back down to the feature match area now as these two players are getting underway with their opening hands, and we'll see if they like the look of what they have pulled off the top here. Inawa looks to be a little light on lands, although that's not always a death sentence for Dredge, but no, Inawa is going to go down to 6, take a mulligan here. Let's see if Cassis is happy with what he's conjured up. A few cool interactive options as well in the Urza Thopter Sword list. Usually in pure combo decks, we don't see a lot of interaction, but there is Galvanic Blast, there is Fatal Push, there's ways to disrupt the graveyard with Nihil Spellbomb and Grafdigger's Cage. And Ensnaring Bridge and Pithing Needle, also crucial one-offs that can be tutored up with anything from Whir of Invention to Goblin Engineer.
Right, but one of the important aspects is that Grafdigger's Cage can be useful against these decks, but only if you're quite fast.
While these players getting set up for the next game, we can have another look in on a game continuing here between Emil Castro Christiansen and Guillaume Wafo-Tapa. Wafo-Tapa, the Hall of Famer from France, of course, known for his love of slow blue-based control decks, especially in his beloved Esper colors. And right now, he's facing down a Reality Smasher in addition to a Walking Ballista from the Englishman there.
Yeah, and the Cavern and one of the more important cards is that Cavern of Souls hidden down there, allowing Reality Smasher to be uncounterable. And even though it doesn't look like it did much because Wafo-Tapa was tapped out, Wafo-Tapa was tapped out because, well, my counter magic doesn't do anything, so I need to be more proactive. And it can force some situations which are not desirable. By the way, Guillaume took away last game, which kind of surprised. There were a lot of spells in Guillaume's hand, but it seems like the exact sequence allowed him to take it over.
Well, Wafo Tapper certainly got on the board early in game number 1 and was able to steal victory away from Emil Castro Christensen with the power of cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor. This time, however, the shoe is on the other foot. Christensen maybe looking to build his own little battle of Agincourt here, as we see Esper Charm from Guillaume Wafo Tapper.
Discard 2, that was beautiful. That was great. Got rid of 2 frets in the easiest way possible.
Not often we see that mode activated there, but Wafo Tapper still under a bunch of pressure and with no real answers to the threats that are on board. Counterspells in hand, plenty of them. Yeah. But he may just be going down, having his reality smashed here.
Yeah, this is 7 damage, and it adds up quickly, without, especially because Wafo Tapper doesn't have removal. There is the option to stay alive with Snapcaster Mage and Kaya's Guile, but it's not going to last very long. It
not
really,
a sustainable plan,
however,
no.
Path to Exile can really change things.
All right, well, let's see if Wafo Tapper can find one off the top here. Find some kind of tool that's going to keep himself alive. He did use that Esper Charm to remove Emil Castro Christensen's hand. Got those 2 key threats, Thought Not Seer and Endbringer. But now, on a very perilous 7 life, can the Frenchman find what he needs to stay in this game? Or will he go down to the Eldrazi threats hulking on the other side of the battlefield there, Reality Smasher? And it's second fiddle there, Walking Ballista. 2 mana. What are we going to see here? Chalice on 1.
Yeah, that'll probably get countered by Ceremonious Rejection. One of the best outs for Guillaume Wafo Tapper here being Path to Exile.
Yep, finds an island with that Flooded Strand, and Chalice of the Void is rejected. Ceremoniously, though. Yes. It was not an unceremonious rejection.
It was looked at and dismissed.
Dismissed with some aplomb, I would say. Back to Wafo Tapper, needs that path. Off the top, finds it as well, just like that.
Just gets it.
He's back in this game. All of a sudden now a clean answer to some of the stuff that Christensen has on the board. And with that Snip Snap in hand as well, all of a sudden the value train is toot starting to pull out of the station.
I mean, it gives Guillaume a chance to deal with the board. And with that, it really depends on Emil's next draw. Another Reality Smasher would be a huge problem, especially with the damage from Walking Ballista. Here, this is going to be close. I mean, we're definitely, I think here we want to see, we don't need to see necessarily Guillaume winning, but for me, if Guillaume manages to deal with the board and Emil has nothing, Guillaume will be able to take over the game.
Well, let's see how Wafo Tapper wants to play this one out here. Certainly taking his time on this decision. We do have our players ready on the back table, so as soon as we see Wafo Tapper commit to a line here.
Yeah, the question is, do you path the Walking Ballista now, or can you wait a turn? I think on upkeep, it's okay, since Emil hasn't drawn the card. Boosting the Ballista up for 1 damage isn't particularly relevant, and you're locking yourself out of a drop.
Yeah, not a great use of 4 mana here.
To do it.
Well, the Walking Ballista is going to go upstairs.
And it is worth remembering that Walking Ballista is not an Eldrazi.
Yes.
So it is counterable by something like that Logic Knot in Guillaume's hand. That said, though, Guillaume is going to have to discard a card to Reality Smasher, and that's most likely going to be that Logic Knot.
That's very true. I mean, at this stage here, we see Snapcaster Mage as well. That's going to flash back the Path to Exile.
But this is very neat, though. Okay. Wait. Okay.
All right, so in the draw step now.
Yeah, because again, you want to give as many chances to draw those basics as possible with 2 wastes in the deck. But yeah, here it comes.
So it's not often that we see Snapcaster give something flashback that is not then immediately cast.
Yeah.
But this one was. So now Wafo Tapper has cleaned up the board, looks to be in a much better position now. That means we can move back now to Cassis and Inawa here on one of our other tables. Eli Cassis, of course, playing that Urza Thopter Sword, new little brewski. And Felix Inawa, however, on Dredge.
Yeah, and let's get back to this action. Felix, the game plan here is just speed. Felix is trying to fill that graveyard as fast as possible while boarding in cards like Nature's Claim, Ancient Grudge. Cards that are, initially Nature's Claim is really to fight Leyline of the Void, but it happens to be particularly effective against a deck that happens to have almost all targets.
Shriekhorn, the first play here for Inawa.
Yeah, and if you see Nature's Claim, if you spotted Eli Cassis's Nature's Claim, that's because of a worry of something like Leyline of the Void from Felix.
Well, Felix, no such luck for him here as he uses Shriekhorn, mills over 2. Cassis going to now use this opportunity to fetch out a land here.
Funnily enough, Nature's Claim can deal with Shriekhorn.
Yeah, there's the breeding pool as well.
And it's definitely the correct play because there's no ley line. Plus, this Felix has not milled over a Dredge card.
All right, so nice little sequence there for Eli Cassis, getting rid of that Shriekhorn.
Yeah.
And of course, life total, not inconsiderable, but the 4 life that Inara is going to gain off this is not, it's certainly not of critical importance.
Yeah, but you make a good point on the 4 life here not being important. The problem with Nature's Claim in most decks that run it is that it is actually important.
Yeah.
This is one of the few decks that likes Nature's Claim and doesn't mind the life along with Tron.
Because it just wins by miles, not by inches.
Exactly.
All right, so Inara now, one of the key cards not only in this deck but also in this format more broadly in Faithless Looting.
Yeah, but still not hitting a Dredger. And look at the importance. I think that Archemy was drawn from Faithless Looting. Shriekhorn would have been able to put that in play.
Yeah. Yep. So Cassis actually really picking the opportune moment there to remove that Shriekhorn. An innocuous target, you would think, but certainly set Inara back by some margin.
Yeah, and by the way, this is why you see this other Faithless Looting be fired. Felix just needs to make things happen.
Yep, just needs some action. There's a Conflagrate off the top and another Faithless Looting. So those are nice, 2 nice cards there. But in hand, it's another copy of Faithless Looting for Inara, in addition to that copy of Conflagrate and a Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, the Scalding Tarn is really it's really attractive to keep the Scalding Tarn because you can flash back the Faithless Lootings. But I think Felix is okay with just firing off 1-mana Lootings and just hoping to put cards in the graveyard and get there. Since after all, if the first Looting gets a Dredger, the second one will start turboing for the deck. And Felix is very aware that there is a clock. It doesn't look apparent, but the more turns that Eli gets, the more likely something like a Grafdigger's Cage or a Goblin Engineer for that cage. Or, you know, just the combo, right? Sort of the Meek Fopter Foundry, Urza Lord High Artificer. These are concerns.
Mishra's Bauble reveals the top card of Felix Inara's library to Eli Cassis. He gets a good look at that. And there's that Grafdigger's Cage as well, so that's going to be key. Now, a Chromatic Star from Cassis. Ships and draws a card thanks to the Bauble. Back to Inara, finds a mountain off the top.
Yeah.
Does have those Faithless Lootings, Eduardo, but with that Grafdigger's Cage in hand, he's definitely on the back foot.
Yeah, but you notice why that Blood Crypt is tapped and not Stomping Ground? It's to try to get to Nature's Claim.
All right, 2 cards off the top, Leyline of the Void and an Ancient Grudge. That'll do it.
Yeah. Well, you don't get the full value since you have to discard it, but still pretty important here. After all, Cage prevents Ancient Grudge, so you have to keep the Mountain in the Grudge, but a really nice pickup, as you notice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we see a Faithless Looting get discarded in addition to that Leyline of the Void. That means that, I mean, you know, Faithless Looting as a card with flashback, not something you're devastated to have in your bin.
Yeah, especially with the third land. While it is, like, Felix doesn't really want to play too many lands, being low on cards, it is kind of nice to have free lands to start flashbacking Faithless Looting.
So, Ancient Grudge gets rid of that Grafdigger's Cage, and across comes the Bloodghast now.
Yeah, and while Eli looks at the graveyard, which includes Conflagrate and the full quadruple Faithless Looting.
Yeah, all 4.
Yeah.
All 4. Yeah, yeah.
It's worth pointing out, Eli has Goblin Engineer. It's that red card you've noticed to the front, and it can get back Grafdigger's Cage.
With its activated ability.
Right, but
Very
not
true.
right away.
No. Got to tap it, I think. That's right.
Yes.
So, another copy of Mishra's Bauble here. Cassis gets another little bit of information. Excuse me.
Plus, you don't really have an artifact since you need red mana. But I'm sure Eli's deck can oblige.
And now, Chromatic Star, another copy of Goblin Engineer.
Yeah, that's a little too many engineers for the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You know, what's the saying? Too many engineers spoil the soup.
I can't believe that that's the saying.
I'm pretty sure that's the saying. Have you ever had a soup made by an engineer?
Well, they dump a sword in it.
That's the thing. You end up with you know, all sorts of weird stuff in there. I mean, it's perfectly structured soup. All the stuff in it has been meticulously. Those numbers have been crunched.
But
Goblin Engineer now.
By the way, drew a land card there because of the Mishra's Bauble. And that's also why you might have seen a dice in the middle.
Yes, little reminder there for Cassis to draw that card.
Yeah. Now on Felix's side, there's not really anything to destroy, so you might as well try to get there with your own deck.
All right, so flashback Faithless Looting here. Draw 2, discard 2, Stinkweed Imp in hand, and that's going to be important because that means now we finally have a Dredger online for Felix Inara.
Yeah.
So Conflagrate, very much Conflamedium at the moment.
Yeah.
in addition to that Stinkweed Imp being discarded. And in comes the Bloodghast once again.
Yeah, and things that are in Felix's favor here, while Goblin Engineer getting back Gravdigger's Cage is not great, let's be honest. There's no red mana. There are also no artifacts.
Yeah, so Goblin Engineer not really solving the problem in the grand tradition of, you know, the engineering people.
I would say goblins, but, you know, that's...
Yeah, I guess very much living up to the full flavour of the card. A combination of Goblin and Engineer, ultimately quite useless.
Yes.
All right. Next up, Eli Cassis. Is that that's not another Goblin Engineer? Surely not. Surely not. No, Arkham's
That is
Astrolabe.
much better.
Much better. There's
that is
artifact.
oh my god. Well, okay, so interestingly here, that's red mana, and that's an artifact to sacrifice to get Gravdigger's Cage.
So the perfect
But,
draw.
yeah, but drew into the 4 Goblin Engineer.
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, this problem is so tough, it needs 4 Goblin Engineers to try to crack this case.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that Arkham's Astrolabe was actually pretty perfect. Filters, mana, goes through the deck, gets Gravdigger's Cage. It really does it all.
So Goblin Engineer, tap, red, sacrifice an artifact, and return a different artifact from your graveyard with converted mana cost 3 or fewer, and Gravdigger's Cage fulfills that requirement, comes back into play. Inawa doesn't have the opportunity, however, to cast that Ancient Grudge.
Not with nothing else in play. That's the problem. Actually, wait a second. Was there a Stomping Ground in Felix's graveyard?
No, he's got one on the battlefield here.
He could have responded to the Arkham's Astrolabe draw trigger.
Oh,
actually, no, it wouldn't. Sorry,
it wouldn't have worked,
the
'cause you could
artifact is
still-
there.
you
The
could
artifact's
still
there.
fill
There
it,
was
yeah.
nothing to be done. Sorry.
There was no point at which that Ancient Grudge could be used to prevent the Goblin Engineer from doing its work.
Yeah, so
All right.
now we got Stinkweed Imp on aggro mode.
All right, old Stinky getting it done here. The 1-2. Nice full grip for Cassis, mainly full of Goblin Engineers.
I mean, Cassis is a 10.
Yeah. And
Just
plenty of
wants
action.
mana. Just wants mana.
Plenty of action in hand to deploy, as you can see. Triple Engineer, Thopter Foundry, ×2, and then Urza, Lord High Artificer as well.
I'll remind you of one. You know how well, the thing in Dredge, right, is normally you don't cast your cards so much.
No, not often. It's a sad day when you're casting a Stinkweed Imp for 3 mana.
Yeah, but, you know, Creeping Chill could do the job. Look, Cassis is a 10.
Yeah, that's true. Just start dredging up a storm here. That's what we're going to see here for an hour.
But that's why we see the Stinkweed Imps come back. Even though these Narcomoebas won't be in play because of Gravdigger's Cage, a Creeping Chill is exiled and then does its effect. It's not cast.
It's not cast. No, that's right. So it kind of gets around it. All right, so Goblin Engineer blocks the Bloodghast, which won't be coming back for as long as that Gravdigger's Cage is around. So not as useless a block as we're accustomed to. And another Stinky getting it done here in the air.
Yeah.
Man, Eli Cassis just needs a mana source, and I don't think he's found one. Is that a Mox Opal?
Kind of found, but not quite.
Yeah, but it's just a Mox Opal.
Yeah, but at least it enables any a cheap artifact to enable mana. So it's not the draw that's wanted, but yeah, there's Creeping Chill.
Okay, there's one Creeping Chill that does work around Gravdigger's Cage, as you say. It's not exiled. It is just, oh, sorry, it's not cast, it's just exiled.
Yes.
And now the Stinkweed Imp's coming in, and another Stinkweed Imp as well that was just Dredge. So Felix and Hour, he's on the plan.
Sorry, you said something about Stinkweed Imp before the match started, right? You dismissed
I was saying
it?
how it's an effective, a really efficient beater. You know, this is exactly what Dredge wants to do. Play its 3 mana 1/2s, get aggressive in the air, find those crippling chills. Eli Cassis facing lethal next turn. Unfortunately, after having picked up game 1, looks like he's going to go down in game number 2, unable to find the mana he needed to cast his spells.
One thing that in Eli's favor here has been that draw of Astrolabe, which turns on the Mox Opal plus Chromatic Star. Since with Nature's Claim in hand, you can Nature's Claim the Chromatic Star, gain 4, and gain time to maybe deploy those Thopter Foundries in hand.
Look at that. Yep, once again, Eduardo. as you're known in England, Eddie, spitting future truths here as Cassis buffers his life total a little bit. Now, a Creeping Chill still going to be very problematic here for Eli Cassis. Life from the Loam dredged by the Austrian. 1, 2, and 3 cards. And nothing that's going to be of too much use here for Inawa.
Yeah, I'm curious as to the Life from the Loam here, since Conflagrate is incastable from the graveyard.
So Conflagrate, of course, locked up by that copy of Gravdigger's Cage.
Wait, is there a Forgotten Cave in the graveyard?
Yep.
So, yes, this is great.
All right, what's
this
going on?
is great.
Tell us.
I haven't seen this in so long. I'm excited. Like, if you've played back with when in Extended, with Life from the Loam and Forgotten Cave, you can cycle Forgotten Cave to dredge back Life from the Loam and have a draw engine.
Just go off.
Oh, yeah, this is great.
Wow.
This is wonderful.
All right, so Inao is going to count the cards in his library real quick. Trying to figure out exactly what his chances are, I guess, of hitting something like a Creeping Chill, which at this stage would be lethal if Eli Cassis has nothing else to do here. So let's see what he wants to do now.
One nice thing is you can, if the Creeping Chill's on top of the library, it's essentially cycle win.
Yeah, that's true. Let's have a look. All right. 1 red mana.
I would probably get back the Life from the Loam in this spot since you can recast it. You could also get the Stinkweed Imp since it's the most damaged this turn.
Oh, I mean, come on. Stinkweed Imp, the biggest beater in Modern. 1/2 flyer in the F3 mana. Come on, doesn't get better than that, does it?
Yeah, so Felix is trying to decide, do I want to maximize my chances this turn, or am I trying to set up for future turns since the Stinkweed Imp couldn't be cast here?
All right, no hits off the top there.
While it isn't lethal, that Blast Zone is actually really nice. It is as clean an answer as they come for that Grafdigger's Cage.
That's very true. Yep, get that back with Life from the Loam. Grafdigger's Cage can't prevent that. And now Inawa casts Life from the Loam, brings back the Forgotten Cave, brings back the Blast Zone and a Gemstone Mine.
Yeah, and now Eli is down under a lot of pressure, but with Urza, Lord High Artificer in hand, and Sword of the Meek in the graveyard, I think Eli might take this next turn. So here, you play Urza, you cast Urza Lord High Artificer with everything available.
All right.
There's a construct in the Grafdigger's Cage that can be tapped, filtering the mana through Arkham's Astrolabe. That gets you Thopter Foundry, which you can tap for blue, sacrifice one of the artifacts, get back Sword of the Meek, gain infinite life creatures, and get it done.
So just like this, Eli Cassis out of nowhere is going to win this game by the look of things. There's the construct token. Felix Inawa scrapping away with those Stinkweed Imps, but it wasn't enough. There's the second part of the combo. That's Thopter Foundry there. Sacrifice the Archelabe, bring back the Sword of the Meek, and all of a sudden, we got a stew going here. Oh, listen, smell that heady aroma.
The Goblin Engineers got it done.
The Goblin Engineers, look, they took the scenic route to victory. There's no doubt about it. They took the scenic route to victory, but Eli Cassis, he used that Grafdigger's Cage to slow down Felix Inawa to the point that Inawa was unable to push through sufficient damage. Cassis taking it right down to the wire. He's on 2 life, but at the end of the day, right now, he's demonstrated an infinite loop here. Felix Inawa does have the chance to respond, but being fully tapped out, what can he do?
Well, nothing.
He can pack up his cards, and that's going to be it here. Eli Cassis looks to have pulled off a miraculous victory here. Very late in the piece, and there it is. Inawa going down in straight sets.
If the top 2 cards are Creeping Chill, oh, please don't. Okay. At least the last 2 cards apparently weren't Creeping Chill, because I think Felix would have looked a little too crestfallen there.
We would have exactly. Yeah, it would have felt a little bit like a turkey if he.
Yeah, he looks much more reassured that was not a chill.
Cool as a cucumber, just like that. But I tell you what, congratulations to Eli Cassis. What a game from him. Managing to pull together his infinite combo there, Eduardo. Really impressive stuff. And I love this Urza deck. I really hope to see a lot more of it in the future. I think, Modern currently dominated by Hogak, but there's room for, cards like Urza Lord High Artificer to have some playtime here.
Yeah, and I really like that there's so many builds of the deck, so it will take time for the community to come up with the best build. But this is a way to get like a lot of different builds and then work on it, right?
That's
like
it.
The Goblin Engineer.
Yeah, the Goblin Engineers, they're gonna iterate the problem. My friends will find that solution. Right now, however, we're going to take a quick break, and then it is back to the desk. The party don't stop, my friends, here at Mythic Championship Barcelona. Stick with us. We'll see you after this.
Hey everybody, I'm with world champion Javier Dominguez here, and we're going to crack a pack of Modern Horizons. And as you're doing that, Javier, let me know your favorite color combo in Modern Horizons.
Blue-black, ninjas, not even close.
So why do you think Blue-Black Ninjas is so good in this format?
I think it just has most good matchups. Like, they have like some of the best cards, and also like really hard to attack. Like, there's no counter strategy to ninjas. I think that's why it's the best.
And they just come out of nowhere and surprise you. And ooh, I heard an ooh here. All right, so what do we like here in this pack?
Hogak.
Good in Modern,
Yeah,
I think still.
I thought it's playable in Modern. Like, imagine if you pair this card with like, Griffer cards and zombies, and yeah, it could be. Must try it. I don't even know if this is a pick though.
Oh, really? Okay, so talk me through what you're thinking about looking through this pack.
Well, I'm thinking like I like Fate Seer a lot. I think this card is very good.
But it's just a 1/1 flyer for one.
Scry 2 though. I think Scry 2 is actually kind of close to drawing a card. Imagine a 1/1 flying draws a card. That would be great, right? I think Fate Seer can be almost as good in many decks. So I'm really high in this card. And I think that's the one, I think it's the best one among the others. But I think maybe Hogak is better.
This is a tough choice for you, it looks like.
If I open this, yeah, I think I would probably pick Hogak because it's hard to replace. Like, it is a very unique card. And it's also like good in green and black. It's more like a green card, I think. But yeah, I think Hogak. Yes.
All right, so you love ninjas most of all, but Hogak good enough to push you into a graveyard synergy?
Yeah, I think so. I think I will try to pair it with Alter of Dementia. Maybe that works.
Oh, Altar of Dementia, okay.
So.
All right, we're just building a modern deck here in draft. So Hogak, Arisen Necropolis, the pick here for Javier Dominguez in Modern Horizons draft.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk. We are at the back end of round 13 right now. So the feature matches coming in thick and fast and the big matches that matter around the tournament. Jon Finkel with his 17 top finishes is up to 11-2. So certainly has one loss to give in the next couple of rounds. 12 is the magic number because then potentially you're going to have a handshake and a congratulations, one extra point in the following round. So 11-2. Potentially a win and in coming up for one of the greatest of all time, Jon Finkel. Also in that boat, Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez. We heard from him with Tim earlier on. He's 11-2. Toralf Severin is 11-2. Now, Australian fans have not forgotten David Mines, who was 11-1, don't have his result yet. So he could be leading the tournament at 12-1 with the possibility of being just one handshake away. Though if he does get to 12-1, he will certainly need to probably play against someone lower down who will need the win. So it could be a while, but nonetheless, if Mines can get to 12-1, that'd be fantastic. Now, I mentioned Toralf Severin. He's at 11-2. He's one of these Tron players from Germany that have gone a particular route in their deck building. He's on the floor right now with Tim Willoughby.
Thank you, Rich. Yes, I am on the floor with Toralf Severin, hot off a win against Jelga Vigishma, just out of the feature match area, but very much at the top tables. And Toralf, I feel like looking at the deck you've chosen and even some of the specific card choices you've made, it's like you've not noticed there's this whole new set called Modern Horizons, right, that does all of these. It's got lots of really cool cards. Some people are making these 8/8s for free, and it's like you're just not that bothered and just carrying on as if nothing has changed.
No, it's like when you undust a deck that you found like in your storage, and it's like, oh, this looks still fine, we just play it. Yeah, there's, I think, one new card from M20 and no Horizon card, so it's just a good deck at all, as you probably know.
Now, a lot of people have recognized that tapping 3 lands and making 7 mana is good. That much, at this point, the cat is well out the bag. But a lot of people have been adopting a different plan when it comes to Tron decks. They've been going Eldrazi Tron. They've been looking at Khan the Great Creator, bringing out all sorts of cool artifacts from the sideboard. That's not what you and your team have been up to. Can you explain to a little bit about why that is?
I don't really say that Eldrazi Tron is worse, it's just different, and we always play Tron, so the way the new Karn works is that it's really good if you can defend it, and we don't really play creatures that can defend it. So Eldrazi Tron is very good in using it and in the sideboard, but for example, if we want to get Bridge, we have a lot of cards, that's not really effective, and then Karn dies a lot, it's just very clunky. So we actually decide to cut it from the deck and play just a very old version of 4 Worm Coins, Ballistas, and Karns, and it just performed very well against the decks that want to be good against Hogak. So that was our strategy, and it's still fine against Hogak.
Yeah, I watched you playing against Jelga this round, and Walking Ballista seems pretty good. All of those Relic of Progenitus seem to do good work. I mean, the Wormcoil engines, they'll block a Hodak all day long and kill it off very nicely thanks to Death Touch. The other thing that has changed, though, in the format that does seem very pertinent to what you guys are doing is the London Mulligan. It's now just, this is the way that things are, this is the way that things work. How many mulligans would you say that you've been taking over the course of this tournament?
I think I kept one hand on 7, like maybe 2 or 1, but I went to 3, like at this match, and I won. I went to 4 multiple times and I won. If you know what you're looking for, you just look for that. It's not that difficult.
All right, so fill us in. If what are we looking for? If we're playing against Hogak, I know that you've got Leyline of the Void in your sideboard, which is obviously great against Hogak. How aggressively do you mulligan for it, or is it just kind of a bonus when you find it?
Against Hogak specifically, you need to have it. That's mandatory. Luckily, you have the London Mulligan rule, so you basically find it anytime. And since the deck really works with a lot of, like, on low cards, you can mulligan it from 7 to 6, maybe even from 5. But at some point, you have to take care of lanes. A Leyline doesn't do anything if you get hit by Bloodgas and the other Stitches and Brandis. I've died to those 1/1s because they couldn't do anything. But if you have 7 and you don't have a Leyline, it's probably not good enough. Like,
So
even if you have Tron.
So Tron plus Khan, not good enough. You'll go for the Leyline.
It depends a little. Like, there's this case when they start and they mulligan. I think you can actually keep a Tron land without a Leyline because you know that they're actually at a disadvantage right now, and that might be good enough. You need to have really perfect Tron and Wurmcar engine for that. Otherwise, I would probably just chip it also. And if you start, you probably just mulligan to Leyline. Like, that's just how it goes. You need to have it.
All right, there we have it. Straight talking about Tron. Turns out that sometimes you can be the good guy while being the bad guy with Tron. Terrell Severin here from the floor at Mythic Championship number 4.
Fantastic stuff. 11-2. He's on a collision course with maybe Juan Jose Rodriguez Lopez, maybe the greatest of all time in John Finkel. See what happens there. Don't think they've played in strategy. You can't play again once you've played them in the relevant format. Can play them multiple times in draft on different days in different pods. Now, by my reckoning, the last player in the room who can win this tournament without help is Zhang Ziyang of China, the Grand Prix Beijing champion from 2018, because he is at 9-3-1 right now. That's 28 points. So were he to win his last 3 matches, that would go 31, 34, 37. 37, 12-3-1 is usually enough to get you in, though it depends on the last round pairings and who plays and who decides to try and play for seeding in the top 8 and so on. So there is plenty going on still, but nonetheless, with less than 4 losses, he's in with a shout. So too is Bernardo Santos. Remember him, 7-0-1 overnight. Didn't win a match in draft, but he is now 9-2-2. So 27 points for his 9 wins. 2 extra points for his 2 draws, 32, 35, 38. He would certainly think he would be safe with 3 more wins. Plenty more to tell you about, but we have a deck tech lined up at the video wall. Paul Cheon is in the company of the ever-marvellous Brian Brown-Dewin.